Hello everyone, Frank and Darren back again. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Best and Worst of, and Dave McRae's back.
I'm back, bitches.
Now, Dave, this seems to be everybody's favorite. This is the H4, the Jason Lives. Why do you expect this is everybody's favorite?
Well, this is interesting because my favorite is the first album. I tend to go in order. I tend to go, my favorite is the first one, followed by the second one. And I would often say then part 3 and 4. And it just kind of, it continues to get worse as the series goes on. And A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is the fan favorite. Like you just said, it's the Friday 6 of the series. It's the Halloween 4 of the series, I guess. Or maybe even H2O, because I know H2O is a fan favorite. You could put that in there, even though I don't particularly like it. But Elm Street 3 it's often been considered that hybrid, right? That balance between funny Freddy, scary Freddy. Obviously, they've stepped up the sort of the dream sequences and what happens with the dreams, and it's an ensemble sort of cast. You got all the kids of Elm Street, and they could, it's really about lucid dreaming and being able to get a hold of your dreams and fight back against your enemies. So, I mean, the concept and the premise is fascinating and interesting, and I think that's why people like it. I do. I think it's relatable in that sense. I think they like sort of the fighting back and the dream sequences and the characters and
Freddy
the effects
versus the never-ending story.
Yeah, it's more fantasy than the other two, I think, in that regard, and I think people enjoy it for that. Having just watched it this morning before we did this show, I don't not like it or anything, but I don't know. I don't like it as much as it's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie at all.
You grew up.
I just don't particularly think it's scary. Yeah. I don't think it's really scary at all, having watched it this morning. And maybe it's because I'm older now or whatever, but I don't know. I think the first two films are far scarier and far better because of that.
Yeah. Darren, yourself.
I was excited for this when it first came out, and in the UK, we got this really cool artwork for it, which I'll put up there now. It's Freddy in a trench coat, kind of posing, leaning forward. I don't know if you guys saw it with
flashing everybody.
A blue background. No, well, not quite, but yeah, he was in like a big, thick wool trench coat, and it's a really cool shot of him. And I remember Warner's putting posters up for this all around the local video shops, and I rented it, and I was okay with it. I don't think it's as good as the first two. I do understand why some people like it. I think this is the start of the kind of sort of, well, certainly for me, the decline of the franchise, whereas we weren't taking everything as seriously as we did in the first one. There's those comedic elements are starting to slip in now, the quipping. And we can first spot that within definitely the first two kills in this film. The opening to it, I think, is quite creepy, and I do like the Freddy worm moment. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it is too, and I found watching it this morning is that it's Freddy tends to come and then go away, and then come and then go away, and then come and then go away, and I found it was a little, I don't know, watching it again a bit more objectively and sort of it feels like I like the worm scene too. But, and again, I mean, maybe this is coming more from a biased perspective because I really appreciate the feeling and the tone of the first two films, but it almost feels like maybe in some instances they maybe peaked too soon. Like maybe that worm thing should have been part of the climax, and it's like, wow, because you build to that. Because, watching the film play out and reintroducing Nancy and then the kids and their dreaming and stuff, maybe it should have been played more where we don't see Freddy really for a bit. And there's this build-up like he's coming back, this man, and they're there in their room and they're talking. He wears a dirty brown hat. Imagine if we hadn't seen him yet at that point and the music's building and it's like, ooh, this, and then it's almost like, it just really sort of milk that, more a bit of a slow burn, milk it a bit and kind of slowly drip feed him back back, and then he comes, and then the climax is the worm and the mirror shattering and the thing on that, and just have a big thing where he's really back. I almost felt like it felt kind of weird. Certain dreams where we have this big dream thing, and then this moment of calm where we're supposed to be caught up in the mysticism of Freddy, where it's like, well, but we've already just had this epic thing happen. I don't really feel that. I feel like it's the cat's out of the bag in the first 20 minutes of the movie. So I get your point.
How do you feel about it, Frank?
Well, I also feel that if I were to watch this movie for the first time without seeing the other two, Nancy and Freddy's history is kind of dissolved in this movie. None of the kids, Neil or any other characters in this, know about Nancy and Freddy. All they know is that she knows who he is. But if we had a little bit of backstory, she explained to him what this guy is, who he is, a little bit more, and to these kids. I know they do that in a group a little bit, but it just seems like it's gone to the wayside. But yeah, this is I think the start of the kind of going into the MTV realm. Certainly 4 is, but yeah, getting
it's the beginning of
comedic, the comedic Freddy.
And whoever knew that? Whoever thought? We sometimes forget that Bill Maher is in this film. Neil is Bill Maher.
Still politically incorrect,
right? I think he looks so much like Bill Maher.
He does.
So much like Bill Maher.
And you would think incredible. That Morpheus would give each of those kids either the red pill or the blue pill.
That's right. Lawrence Fishburne. Credited as Larry Fishburne in this movie.
Yeah.
With that being said, speaking of these characters, who are your favorite? Who are the best?
My best character. This was tough. I actually found coming up with best and worst of everything in this movie tougher than the other two. I don't think it's as clearly defined.
No.
You could pick any. Well, there's a few people you could pick, but I chose Heather, and the reason why I chose Heather is because she's the link to the original, and I think it was a nice thing to see her again in this film. I think it makes the film better. I think without her, it would feel more disconnected from the rest of the franchise, maybe even more so than Part 2 did. Because Part 2 still takes place in the house, and it's a new family that lives in the house, sure, but they find Heather's diary, and there's still sort of a connection there, even though it's a weird film at the same time.
But there's no connection to 2 in this at all, is there?
None.
It's just glossed over.
Right.
I don't even think it's mentioned, is it?
It's not. It's not. I think 2 was a box office hit, but it was a critical failure. And I think that they just wanted to pretend maybe that it didn't exist. And so it's almost like 1 and then 3 is the official sequel, I guess. But I like Heather. I don't think she's as good in this as she is in the first film. But just seeing her there and adds credibility to the film, adds the connection, the nostalgia that you need. I think there's just enough that it feels connected and it feels a part of everything. I just wish there was more of a meeting when the worm thing happens and Freddy's like, you, and she's like, oh my God. I just wish there was more of a moment with them, rather than just maybe the worm thing going, you. Maybe it should have been Freddy and they come face to face.
Swallow your soul.
Yeah.
More of that.
Or that, but just more of a meeting of the, you know what I mean? Because she's
dialogue.
Really, really at this point, she's his arch nemesis, right?
Yeah.
She's the one that defeated him. He should
knows
be
his power.
Yeah, and so I wish there was a little more there, but Heather's my favorite, I guess, or I think is the best. You could pick a few others, but I think she's the best just because of that connection to the first film. It was nice to see her back, and it was always interesting whenever she was on screen because she's the OG. So you get that connection there. Although you would have thought by this point in her life she would have at least dyed that gray streak. I don't see the point of keeping it. I don't, unless she's just it's like a war wound. Yeah, bitch, I took Freddy on and survived, motherfucker.
Or she can't, or she tries to die and it just comes back. So it's like
maybe that's it.
That's it. When I first watched this as a kid, I remember when she first comes on screen, you get that "Never Sleep Again" moment when she's there in the door, which was really cool. I thought it was a good way of her, being reintroduced into the film. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I looked at her and I thought, my God, she's aged.
Yeah,
look how old she looks.
I thought that too.
And now, when I looked at it yesterday, I thought, oh my God, she looks so young.
Yes.
How is she an intern at a psychiatric ward?
Well, she's what? In real life, I think she's only 23 or 4 in this movie.
Yeah. I think what's also interesting is that they tried to get Wes Craven back to direct this, didn't they?
They did,
and he wanted to do the meta New Nightmare version.
Yes, he did.
And they said, what the fuck's this? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And turned it down, and then obviously the rest is history. But I thought it was interesting that he tried it so long ago.
And didn't Frank Darabont have a role in this film? I think he wrote a draft of the screenplay.
Oh, really?
He did.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Frank Darabont, of course, for those that may not know, is the director of The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Mist. I wish he would do more. Yeah, I wish he would do more feature films. Everything he touches seems to be pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But
except the Majestic.
Yeah. I guess that wasn't his. But I mean, to be 3 for 4 is pretty good.
That's not bad.
Pretty good.
And he started The Walking Dead as well, didn't he? So,
right. And Shawshank, arguably one of the greatest films ever made. So pretty good, not bad.
How about you, Darren? Best character?
Okay, so my best character is Craig Wasson. He portrays Neil. I really like Craig Wasson. I thought he was a really cool actor in the 80s. Especially he did a movie for Brian De Palma called Body Double, which was essentially a sort of remaking of or reworking of Hitchcock's Rear Window. Little bit more kind of there was kind of an erotic version of that, but it's still a good movie. I think it was Melanie Griffith's debut film. And he's really solid in that, and I think he's solid in this as well. It's a shame that he didn't kind of go on to any of the other films, because I think he was a fairly decent character. Although I do question him pinning John Saxon up against the wall during the one point, because as we all know, John Saxon's pretty handy when he wants to be.
Oh man,
he's a big dude.
Yeah,
John Saxon's a big dude
and a ninja in his part time.
Right, exactly.
Lessons from Bruce Lee.
That's it. And didn't John Saxon have his own idea for an Elm Street 3 as well? I think he did. It was very... Right? Yeah, it was something... It was either Elm Street 3 or maybe the one after that. He had his own idea about... I think it was like a prequel. I think it went back to the 60s or something and told the story. The chat room and the viewers will be able to comment and let me know. I remember reading all about it. I even think I might have done a McRae Live on it, actually, but the details escape me. It's been a while. There's a bloody disgusting article all about it. If you Google John Saxon, Elm Street, bloody disgusting, I'm sure it'll pop up. I'm sure it's still there in their archives. And it's a fascinating read. He had this whole thing that he wanted to do, apparently.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
For me, my best character is also Neil, but also Max. I thought Larry Fishburne, as he's known in this movie, did a great, believable job and a likable character. Neil came across as me as, this 40-year-old virgin who still wets his bed a little bit.
Well, it's Bill Maher. I mean,
yeah.
no.
And also, I liked Patricia Arquette's breasts bouncing around in those shirts. That was actually pretty good as well.
Frank, I thought of you when that scene popped up. I thought, well, I bet you Frank's going to hone in on this.
There they go.
There they go. There they go.
It's almost like a sing-along. Your worst character, Dave.
My worst character is Lorenzo. I think Lorenzo, he's the guy he's one of the orderlies, the guy that shoves what's her face? Is it Taryn? I think is her name. Taryn, yep. Taryn. Yep. And I won't say what he says because that'll be part of something later. But he is the bud of this film. And although Bud, I think I think Bud might be, I don't know. I mean, I think Bud and Lorenzo hang out. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
I think they hang
Bud
out.
From Halloween 2?
Bud from Halloween 2. Yes, of course. Yes, yeah. I think he is the Bud from Halloween 2 of this movie. He totally cock blocks Joey when he comes in to take the nurse. The hey, how you doing, baby? Well, hell, I'm going down there. And then of course he acts like a slime ball to Taryn, I guess it is. I keep thinking it's Tara, but it's Taryn. Yeah. A total slime bucket. So he's the worst character for me, Lorenzo.
Okay, Darren, yourself.
This is Dr. Elizabeth Sims.
Of course it is.
And She just wants worse for everyone, doesn't she? She
does.
just runs around kind of sedating people, and it's kind of the answer to everything. So, as an actress, though, Priscilla Pointer, who plays her, has got quite an impressive list of credits. You know, she's a proper Hollywood actress who was in Blue Velvet and Carrie and The Twilight Zone. She's actually 97 years old now and still alive.
Wow. I thought you were going to say in that movie. For a minute, I thought you were going to say she's actually 97 in this movie. I'd be like, oh my God, that is incredible. Go on.
She looks amazing for it, doesn't she?
Oh,
but no, and she's
incredible.
actually Amy Irving's mum.
Really?
So Amy Irving from Carrie and The Fury. That's her real life mum. So, but she's just a kind of really kind of negative, authoritative.
By the book.
By the book. She's just not good for any of those kids, is she? She can't cope with them. All she wants to do is stick them with a needle and sling them in the hole.
Yeah,
So, she gets my worst character vote in this film.
Alrighty.
I agree with you 100%, Dr. Sims, and I'm going to also add Amanda Kruger in there. Amanda Kruger and her character is the start of what we would get now in Part 5, and that nonsense. And having them together, Sims and Amanda Kruger were two like old prudes that have shuffleboard lessons together, and it was just weird. It's just, but Sims had actually no point of being there except for being this negative doctor. You could have gotten away with taking her away, and so with Amanda Kruger too. You know, just two batty broads.
Well, it's funny. Before you move on, there's the character Dr. Carver.
Yes.
The older doctor, the male doctor. Yes, that's him. He's played by an actor named Paul Kent, a character actor. Well, I don't know if he was a character actor, but I've only seen him in character things. He might have been more prominent, I'm not sure. But anyway, he died in 2011. But where I remember first seeing him is on an episode of Three's Company, which of course is the American version of Man About the House, and hugely popular sitcom here in North America. I mean, it was one of the biggest shows of all time. And there's an episode where he plays a doctor on Three's Company. And this is probably about 10 years, no, maybe not 10 years. Let's say maybe 7 years before Elm Street 3. So whenever I see him as Dr. Carver in Elm Street 3, I almost feel like it's the same shared universe, and he's just now at this clinic, and he acts the same way. Like he has the same cadence, the same thing in Three's Company as he did in this one little part. Yeah, role. Thank you. I don't know why I was blanking on the word. So anyway, just a side note, but I just thought it was kind of funny every time I say it. I'm like, oh, it's the same universe. Where's Janet and Jack? Anyway,
all our worst characters have been guests or have had a little role on Golden Girls.
Really?
Yes.
Lorenzo was on Golden Girls.
He was he's credited in there, but uncredited, and he was one of the back. He was like in a crowd in one of the episodes.
Oh, okay.
And Sims,
that's where he belongs.
Sims and Amanda Kruger were basically just little one-liners coming through. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Get old, go into the Golden Girls, and
I love the Golden Girls.
Yeah, I'm not going to have the Golden Girls anymore.
Nodding along and smiling and agreeing on this,
no
but I've never fucking seen Golden Girls at all. So
no? Oh, it's hilarious, Darren.
I'm a bit like Ferris Bueller on the saxophone.
Right.
Never had one lesson.
It's a really funny show. Like the writing and the chemistry between the women, it was fantastic. I mean, just fantastic. Brilliant writing, a lot of fun, great one-liners, great insults, great chemistry. I highly recommend it. When I was in Hollywood, I did get a chance to, I didn't intentionally go to visit her grave. She happened to be in the cemetery with all the other celebrities.
I was just passing dead people, and I saw.
It's true. Well, it's true. Estelle Getty. I actually visited the grave of Estelle Getty, and which was really cool. It was in was it the Hollywood Forever Cemetery? One of the cemeteries there where there's all sorts of people that are buried there.
Gone too soon.
Really cool. Gone too soon, yeah. Yes. Gone too soon, that's right.
Speaking of gone too soon, Darren, Dave, what's your best line?
My best line? Okay, well, listen.
There's practically
the
only
people
one.
See, I'm taking a page out of Darren's book here, and that is that I'm trying to go beyond the obvious. And I think that most people that are watching right now are going to expect us to go to this one line because it's the line that is always said when you talk about the movie, and it's always, and it's a good line, but it is purely a line that it almost could have been the catalyst line that started it all downhill with the quips or whatever, right? Even though it's funny and it makes sense, I get it. And that, of course, is the welcome to prime time, bitch. I get it. Everybody's like, oh, that's the best. My fit's about. Okay, that's fine. But I wanted to go a little bit beyond that. And so there's two that I picked out. And one is, one's kind of funny and one's kind of just kind of makes you think. Is the first one is Freddie's "Where's the fucking bourbon?" Where's I said no? He goes. I said, "Where's the fucking bourbon?" Which I think is kind of comes out of nowhere. It's kind of funny. And then when Amanda Kruger says, "If your only faith is science, doctor, it may be you that's laid to rest." And so I like that line. I think that's a cool line. So those for me would be, and yes, obviously welcome to, but it's the obvious. I didn't want to go to the obvious. I wanted to pick out some other cool lines in there that people kind of go, oh yeah, that is really kind of cool. I never really thought about that because you're so focused on that one thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I said, "Where's the fucking bourbon?" And if your only faith is science, doctor, it may be you that's laid to rest.
Dave getting very political. No, just kidding. Darren, yourself.
I had to go, and I know that you've just kind of slagged it off and all that kind of stuff. And it's just going to really kind of cheapen my entry here. Amanda Kruger's speech when she's talking to Neil Jordan. A young girl on the staff was accidentally locked in here over the holidays. The inmates kept her hidden for days. She was raped hundreds of times. When they found her, she was barely alive and with child. That girl was Amanda Kruger. A child, the bastard son of 100 maniacs.
It's a great little monologue, and that should put, because there are people out there that mistakenly say the bastard of 1,000 maniacs.
Yeah,
it is bastard of 100. 1,000 would just be ridiculous. The real question is whose sperm got past the goalkeeper. That's what we want to know. Well, it can't be 100 sperms, so it's
maybe that's why he's so fucked up, because it is
maybe the first time in history. It's the first time in history.
Could you imagine one inmate saying, "My sperm didn't make it. That's because I wasn't a good swimmer."
Yeah.
Or the line from Twins, "This is where they made the milkshake."
There she blows.
That's good. Yeah, that's right.
Well, for me,
there's one other line as well.
Oh, Christ.
I'm not a huge fan of Kincaid.
I agree with too.
And
I had several I was going to choose from him.
And it's just as they've all decided to go do their kind of lucidness technique and go into dreamland, and he goes, "Let's go kick the motherfucker's ass all over dreamland."
Yeah. That should be part of your worst.
Oh.
It should be. Maybe I've written it in the wrong column, but
yeah. It made you tickle. It tickled.
Wasn't there one too where he was like, he saves the day or something? I forget now. And Kristen's like, "Oh, Kincaid, I could just kiss you or whatever." And then he's like, he says something like, "Come on, Kruger, you fucking pussy," or something. There's something like that or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Well,
that's funny.
But that leads me to my best line as well. Anything Kincaid said, because he was
anything,
even from somebody. "No, man, you gotta put me in a quiet room. Fuck you," stuff like that. Because he's been pushed to the brink, and he's just really fucking crazy. And I also put in there, "This is it, Jennifer, your big break in TV. Welcome to primetime, bitch." And
there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. And I just also added, "You like my body, Joey?" And me just going. Yeah.
My worst line. Okay, well, there's a couple. I mean, there were a few that I could have picked here. The first one is Neil, and he says this, and it kind of makes me go, "Well, why would you say that? That's not." I mean, I get maybe because
this is probably mine too. Go right ahead.
Okay, maybe because I said that.
Group.
I think it's in group. And I thought to myself, why would you say? But then I'm like, well, I can't remember now. Maybe it's at a time when his character doesn't really know the full extent of everything, and maybe he wouldn't say this if he did. But it's still kind of, for a doctor to say this feels very insensitive and kind of out of touch, is when Neil says, listen to me, Joey. Philip killed himself. That's a cowardly thing. That's an empty thing. He let himself down. He let us all down.
Yes.
I don't think to myself...
And he works part-time at a suicide hotline.
Exactly. And I'm like, well, since when is suicide an empty thing? He let himself down. He let us down, that selfish bastard. Yeah. I mean, it's basically... and I'm just
quitter.
like... I remember watching this where I'm going, well, that's kind of... No, but I think it happens before he realizes that, well, it wasn't his... But even if it was, to turn to the other members in the group and to say that the guy you saw fall to his death is a selfish piece of shit.
And you're a doctor. You're
and you're a doctor.
In a room full of emotionally fucking broken people.
That is the equivalent of when a little bit of a side note here. I think I've told you guys this. It was about 15 years ago. I was asked by the psychiatric ward of the Toronto General Hospital. Maybe I didn't tell you this. I think I did. And I was asked to come and speak to inpatients. Really cool thing. They have many different speakers that come in and talk about voiceover and talk about what I do and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't even cross my mind. And so I brought in some audio clips and some videos of some examples of some of my work. And one of the things I brought in was the trailer I did for The Descent.
Yeah.
And the first thing you hear me say in the trailer voice in that thing is, what if your deepest fears what if your deepest fears became a reality? What if everything you were afraid of began to happen? And as soon as I started playing that, and there's this table of people like this sitting there, I'm thinking, oh my God. The trailer, if you type in Dave McRae, The Descent, it should come up. Listen to it. It's my real, I'm not going to do it here because sometimes it gets, I got to warm up a little bit. But I'm telling you, it's my real voice. It's what I do. I can do that voice. And I just couldn't believe that I had said that, or that I had brought that in as an example, not thinking that maybe that's not the best thing to say to people who are in a psychiatric ward. Anyway, it's just a bit of a side note. But that's like the equivalent of this. Like, turning it, hey, he was selfish. He was selfish, you goddamn emotional dweebs. That's almost like what he was saying.
It's like getting Epstein in to babysit. It's just... It's ridiculous. You're now making me rethink my best character now.
Right. Oh, what an emotional slide. What an emotional slide. Oh my God. Incredible.
After Dave's voice acting lesson, that was followed by a private viewing of Awakenings.
Oh.
Continue, Dave. Which is another worse line of you?
The other one for me is Lorenzo, and I'll just read sort of the exchange. The exchange is, so got the keys to heaven, baby. What? The dispensary. I'm talking clean pharmaceutical high. A night at Club Meth. I don't do that shit. Yeah? What are those? Beauty marks? Those are ancient history. Oh, yeah? Well, if you're ever in the mood for a history lesson, I'm your teacher, understand? It's so cheesy. It's Bud, man. It's Bud from Halloween 2. So that exchange there is on my list as well.
Yeah.
Darren, can you get as creepy as Dave?
No, not well. I mean, I'm going to go back to the sequence that you like, Frank. So it's Joey getting seduced by the nurse who kisses Joey, and then they have a kind of. What did you say?
He says, "Say it slowly. Do it, Dusimo."
They have a moment together and kiss each other, and you get that kind of tug of war with the tongues. And right. I think that's kind of a really creepy sort of Freddy moment. Is that I actually quite like that. And then the tongues fire out and tie his wrists and ankles to the bed. Great. I think that's really creepy as well.
That are the creeps.
But once Freddy appears, he delivers what I think is probably the first really naff line that Freddy's ever delivered. And it's Now, it's been done once already with the primetime bitch, so that comedic side of things already come into it there. But the second time it comes in with this, it's like, okay, we're taking a different tone now. This is not Elm Street 1 or 2. And it's the, what's wrong, Joey? Feeling tongue-tied? And at that moment, especially when I was watching it again the other day, I thought, yeah, this is the start of all those quips that we're going to hear now for the next kind of 4 movies. So for me, it's that along with I am the Wizard Master.
Mine too. The Wizard Master bullshit.
Yeah.
But there's one that beats all of you guys.
Okay.
Oh, really? Beats the insensitive Dr. Neil?
Yes.
All right.
Because he's actually added into the sensitivity by trying to be charming and get into Heather's pants by saying she's in group with the rest of the kids, and they're talking about, unleashing their dreams and trying to get their power back. And he just does this Michael Jackson thing, and it says, "You sound like Peter Pan." Don't you climb trees?
Yes.
You sound like Peter. That's the moment I knew that he still lived with his mother, wore pleated pants, slept in a twin-sized bed with a doll, wets the bed, and doesn't go out at night. And that is that one line. You sound like Peter Pan.
Yeah, he does say it like that.
All right, let's get to the meat, though. Dave,
All right.
Your best kill. There's probably one best kill in this whole movie, tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's Philip. You know, it's the marionette. You know, it's. I mean, the kill itself is not anything to write home about. I mean, he just falls off a ledge to his death. But it's everything leading up to that. I think that it still to this day, it's probably the most disturbing thing in this movie.
Oh my God! Yes.
From a visual standpoint, again, I don't think Freddy's particularly scary in this movie. I think he's kind of just shows up every now and then. I don't really get a feel of him there throughout. When you watch the first Elm Street and the second Elm Street, there's this, it's just the way the way everything looks and it feels, and the music. Part 2 had a different score than part 1, but part 2's score was equally as eerie and creepy and strange. This, not so much. Where it lights up for me, because I'm such a fan of the first one, is when Joey is in a coma and Heather is by his bed. You hear that boom, 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 which is from the very first Elm Street, and it gives for me, all of a sudden the movie is elevated. It feels like Elm Street again. Yes. But you get that in sparingly throughout. It's just a different feel and vibe to the picture. Anyway,
this Freddy feels like Freddy 2, where he's like, shh.
Well, it does, but Freddy and Freddy 2 is far scarier. The way he's more sinister, the way he looks, the makeup. Yes, I know he says you've got the body, I got the brain, but it's not overselling it. It doesn't feel, I don't know, there's something about Freddy in 2 that just, and in comparison to him in 3, that's just, I think it's 2 because we see Freddy, when we do see Freddy in 3, we see him a lot. We see his face a lot. We see what he looks like a lot. Yeah, the way he's lit.
And he's kind of dry as his face as well. It looks rubber, doesn't it? It does. We were chatting before, and I said it looks like a really cheap pizza.
It does.
It's not like the Vaseline-ridden look of number 2, where he's almost like sore and dripping, and
that's it.
And he smiles in this as well, which is. It's the smiling and the laughing and the
hat looks small on his head, and he just the way he looks more clown in this movie. The way he moves, the way he talks, the way he quips, he's more clown. He doesn't feel as sinister. He's gone from somebody who is just sinister and evil and dark to really just a cat batting around the mouse, playing with it. Not that he didn't play with people before, but it just is different. It's just different. He's not as sinister and as dark in this movie. And for some people, that's not a big deal. They like that, and that's fine. But the Philip, the the visual of that as he's walking down the hallway in the hospital and seeing him do that and how it's connected. Again, the one thing I will say that they do exceptionally well in this movie, even though some of the dream sequences are a little more sensational than they were in the past, is they are connected to the real world things that the kids are thinking about and doing. So it's their subconscious coming through and presenting to them, you know, what they would be thinking about throughout the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He makes these dolls, he makes these things, so it only makes sense that he becomes one. You know, the symbolism is really good in that way, and just the visual of him and seeing his open wounds in his feet as he's walking down and stuff.
Especially
and
the wrists.
There.
Oh,
yeah, it's really, really great. Still to this day, probably one of the best things in that movie. But the actual kill itself, the fall to his death, you know, I get it. He's up there. He's the puppet master. He slices it and he falls. It's cool. But it's just the visual of that.
Yeah.
That is frightening. So that's my best kill.
How about you, Darren?
Exactly the same. You know,
all three of us are in agreement.
It is the slashes in his arms and the veins coming out and all that kind of stuff. There are a couple of moments within this movie that I think are too ambitious for the budget. One of them is the start of this, when we see that kind of puppet Freddy, and it's a kind of like stop motion animation sequence, which
claymation.
Kind of, claymation, whatever you want to call it. It does look slightly out of place in this film, and does sort of cheapen it a little bit. And I am a fan of that stuff, but in the right movies, you know. But yeah, I think this is probably the best death in the film.
Yeah, I agree too. So, Dave, your worst kill.
Worst kill, it's probably Taryn or Will. I mean, pick them. I think Will's is probably, I mean, either or. I mean, Will just gets stabbed in the chest. And again, you see, because of I watched it on Blu-ray, so I don't know if these movies have been released on 4K yet. I don't think they have. I don't think so. But because of the Blu-ray transfer, you see the wires, him being lifted up. You can see the wires, and it bothers me so much. I wish they would, and I understand it would cost a lot of money to go back and mask those out again. But it feels like high definition transfers of older films that have practical effects with wires and things like that, it cheapens it for me. The Exorcist is another example. When Reagan is levitating off the bed, you watch the high definition version of The Exorcist. Now, don't watch it on your phone. It might be hard to see. Watch it on a big TV or something. Reagan is elevating and they're all going, "The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels." And the wires are there. And I'm just like, I want to reach out to them and go, "Guys, do you not see this?" It just cheapens it for me. I wish they would go back and just mask those things out, just to clean it up that extra more, because what's the point then if moments like this are left in? The high definition transfer just because these movies were not shot in high definition and they're artificially sort of. Right, and they're artificially creating that look in many ways. It removes some of the masking that's been done, and so that bothers me about that. I like the look and the feel of the hallway and how Freddy is lit in the hallway. I think is good, but the kill itself is pretty uneventful, and the battle between him and Taryn. Or Taran, or whatever her name is again, he's, and his voice, why is it that Freddy's voice 1 minute is pitched lower and he sounds like the Freddy we all know, and then the very next line, he sounds like Robert Englund. I mean, he's just Robert Englund. He literally is just, is that deliberate? Did they forget to pitch him lower?
It's really apparent.
Like
in the souls of the children give me strength.
Yeah.
And immediately after that, he says, is it something along the lines of always room for more or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
The always room for more line is Robert Englund. It's not the kind of deepened Freddy voice or...
The souls of the children give me strength. Always room for more.
And that happens in the same... Well, yeah, it happens in the same... Well, that's almost the same shot. almost.
Yeah.
And then it happens with him and Taron as well, when he's like, obviously he's like, let's get high, and he sounds a bit lower there. But before that, and they're fighting, and Robert's just kind of going, I think I know. He says something. I forget what he says, but he's like, "I'm gonna get you." And I'm just like, this is just Robert Englund. Why are these lines not pitched lower? I don't understand it.
Why should we fight? We're old friends, you and I.
Was this that's it. Why? Yeah. Is it a creative choice? Is it that the audio engineer just didn't pitch him lower at those spots? I don't know, but it takes me out of it. It's like, I just hear Robert, I don't hear Freddie, and the kill is, I know some people are gonna be watching this going, think we're shitting on it. Not, it's a fun movie. You can have fun with it for sure. But for somebody like, and I think the three of us, are in agreement that we prefer our Freddy scary. So whenever we get to these films in the series, there is always going to be that, that mark there that's like, you can enjoy it on a certain level, but they're not scary movies anymore. They're just sort of
agreed
fun kind of films, I guess. So
tonally there's a huge shift, isn't there? That's
tonally, exactly. Yeah. So take your pick, Taron, Will.
What about
uneventful.
You,
worst kill for me is unfortunately John Saxon. When he comes back into it, his character was a bit of a letdown. He's kind of he's no longer a cop. He's a security guard.
Should have gone out with a bang, right? Something like he's one of the original conspirators.
He should have been the one to drop the. Well, I guess Neil did it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is with this, it's you get such a huge legacy character come back. To have a fight with Freddy's bones in a junkyard, and then again another sequence which
something that is Sinbad.
It is. It's another sequence that's way too ambitious for its budget, and you get this kind of almost like Ray Harryhausen, Jason and the Argonauts moment that looks terrible now. I mean, I was watching it on Apple the other day, and the effects work really don't hold up, and you can just see that Saxon, for all Saxon's talent with fighting, he just gets to kind of flail around and swing at something that isn't really there, and it's just a really sad demise for a legacy character. But Nancy's as well. She that's a shame. Is that moment?
Yeah, you know what? I should have actually, in retrospect, I should add Nancy to that as well, because I agree with you. I think for her to go out like that, just again another stab to the chest. It just it just seems so uneventful. I understand that she went out saving Kristen, but it just I don't know. Yeah, no, I agree. I you know what? Taron or Will, I think, because they're just uneventful kills compared to Philip. I think it's just how can you top that, or even how can you top what's her face into the television? That's really cool. But you're right. Yeah, Nancy was pretty.
Did her wrong.
Yeah, this is Nancy, for God's sakes. I mean, that's almost the equivalent of going out, tripping on a rock and hitting your head or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But it is. I mean, that whole climactic scene, with Saxon, with Nancy getting killed off, and the way that Freddy supposedly goes at the end of this is. I was watching it again the other day, and I was thinking, wait, is this over now? Is there something else here that I'm expecting, and there's nothing. It's just. It's kind of an anticlimax, I think, is the final moments to this.
I think film. Really, I know that Wes didn't want Elm Street to be a series because, the ending of the first movie really is the best ending of them all, I think. Even though it might seem uneventful in terms of how he goes, because he just reaches for her and disappears. But that's the point, is that Nancy didn't allow, she wasn't scared anymore. She was facing him, and he reaps off the fear. The fear is the fuel. The fear is the energy. Yes. And when she was no longer afraid, it sucked his energy away and he disappeared. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, there was no religious aspect to it. I understand that you keep making movies, you got to figure out, new ways to do things. I get that, but you're right. It's Freddy's death too. Yeah, there were a lot of uneventful. I just don't see how you can top Philip. It just from there, it just all the other deaths seem very pedestrian. Whether it's Will was just stabbed in the chest. Whether it's Taryn, who was just in the arms, right? Nancy in the stomach, I guess, and then in the chest again, or something. Saxon, pale. They're all pedestrian. They're all not as
flamboyant or extravagant.
Just not as creative, I guess.
Yeah,
not as creative.
Yep. Agreed. That's why I also picked Taryn's death, because she's supposed to be in her dream. Everyone picked, Will's supposed to be this wizard master that could make shit into butterflies. There's also Kincaid, who actually has a source of power and strong, who could actually in his dreams crush things. And Taryn is supposed to be bad. She says she's beautiful and bad, and she has these little nail files. And I'm like, how the hell are you supposed to go up against Freddy with these little butter knives? And she is bad. She's like, I'm going to stand up to you. And then once Freddy says, let's get high, she just falls apart because her brain takes her back to when she used to do that shit. And I'm
correct.
Like, no.
Correct.
I'm like, come on, at least,
have a bit more of a fight.
Yes. You're supposed to be bad. At least stab him a couple of times, and then he just comes out and just gets right into her her arms there. But she just buckles as soon as she sees those needles.
Yeah.
I want to see more from her. That hair had to go, though. Oh, that hair had to go.
Well, it was 87. I mean,
Damn. My God.
With a mohawk.
That's right.
It's something out of Twisted Sister. All right, funny. So let's get down to it. Dave, your best moment.
Philip's death you could classify as one of the best moments in the film. Absolutely. I think just the visual of that is incredible. But again, because I have him as my best death, I wanted to kind of, not choose that, although it makes sense to choose it. There's two. The first one, I think the opening of the film and Kristen's dream. I think when she first goes into the Freddy's house and there's a little girl on the tricycle and that whole dream when she gets stuck in the mud or tar or oil or whatever that is there.
It's more oatmeal, isn't it, Frank?
Is it more oatmeal? It might be.
It is. It's like the stuff in the steps, isn't it? That they had in the first film.
Right.
It's black though.
Yeah.
It's like
black. Yeah. But you're right. It's that kind of, and it's that we've all had dreams where we're trying to get somewhere and we can't, right? And I like how Freddy comes around the corner and you can see him kind of doing this kind of thing. Exactly,
but you don't see him per se though.
Exactly. He just comes up and he swipes and then please help me, and she looks down. I think, and then see all the people hanging in the it's more sensational than we've ever seen a dream before. Maybe except for part 2's the bus teeter-tottering on the on the pillar. I absolutely love that. Oh my God, that's such a cool visual. But certainly, but it's not overly sensational. It does feel like this is a dream you would have, like you're caught somewhere and you're trying to get away. Like it feels like a nightmare, like a realistic nightmare. So I enjoyed that. I think that was good. But I can't help but feel, I wonder how better this movie would be. Of course, I'm talking about changing the tone of the film. That's and that kind of, there lies the problem, is that really all my suggestions changed the tone of the film. And I think if you want to go with what they went with, what they did works. You show the snake head in the first 20 minutes of the movie. You show Freddy acting weird with little things, and it changes the tone of the film. But I just can't help but feel, I wonder how, in my opinion, how much better this movie would be if we built up to Freddy. We were introduced to Nancy first, and maybe she does, Kristen does have that dream, but we don't see Freddy, or maybe you hear her go, Freddy's home, but we don't see him though, right? It's just the suggestion that he's there, you know what I mean? And maybe you hear him, you hear that kind of stuff, but we never actually see. You build to him, you build to him. Yeah, really kind of, because people want to see him, getting ready. But anyway, so there's that. I do think the opening is good, and I like all the visuals. And I like at the end of the movie when, although I will say, Neil looks like he's He looks like he's curled up. He looks like a little baby, like he's curled up in bed
I
going.
told you. Yeah.
Like
He sleeps with the blanket all the way up to
the
his
blanket
neck.
is up here, and the way he's curled up, he's like, "Mommy."
It's an odd way to end it, isn't it? Because it's not. It's like, oh, so the light goes on the paper mache house.
But what I was gonna say
Big
was,
deal.
I was gonna say that's actually one of my favorite moments.
Oh, really?
Because not him going. I know he's not but the reason why I actually like that is because, I mean, you're right. From a certain point of view, it's like, well, big deal, was it? But I actually like it because it's nuanced, because it's subtle, and it's not just another hand coming out of the chest or being
It's
pulled through the
symbolic.
window. It's symbolic, and I think it's subtle enough where you kind of go, ooh, oh, where you actually could have never made another one. It's the kind of ending where if you don't want to ever make another, like, it's more in line with that. You don't have to make another one. Just that light turning on says it all. It says enough. You don't need his hand coming out. You don't need somebody being pulled through a window. You don't need some epic cliffhanger. It's just the light turning on makes you go, oh. And if you never made another movie, you can just sit with that. You can just sit with it and just kind of go, oh man, just he's winking at you. That light just kind of goes, and not the actual wink at the end of Freddy versus Jason, but it's more symbolic. So I would say those are two of my. But I mean, the Phillips death. But I wanted to choose something that wasn't that. So yeah, that's it for me.
Excellent, Darren. Your best moment.
My best moment is Jennifer's death. I think it's such an iconic kill, not just in Elm Street, but within horror cinema as well. I know it's kind of, as I said before, it's kind of the beginning of Freddy starting to quip when he's killing people, but it's just executed so well. And as a practical effect, I think it's terrific, with the arms coming out of the side and his head forcing its way through the roof of the TV. And the antennas and everything, and then just the way that she's found afterwards, not even holding on or anything, just hanging out of the telly by her head.
Yes,
I
agree.
think that's probably my favorite moment in the film. I think just because of what that means to horror cinema and how it's a the line as well is kind of infamous, and that the way it's executed is just so well done.
How can anyone believe that's a suicide? There was no chair there. You know what I mean? Like, she would have to get up on a chair and...
Yeah, how is she hanging out of the television?
Yeah, she would have to jump 7 feet.
She took a running
like
jump.
Wilt Chamberlain. and slam dunk her head on Channel 4 in front of Zsa Zsa and Dick Cavett.
That's right. That's right. No, I agree, Darren. I agree. It's an incredible, just as a still image. It's an iconic scene for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like video.
Good choice.
Yeah. You're right, Frank. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to go not obvious in this one. I wanted to go more obscure, which is why some of mine, I no doubt the viewers are like, what? Huh? Really?
The movie?
No. I mean, listen, if you want to get, what Darren said is, duh, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so iconic. It's so amazing. And it's the right choice to make. I was just trying to be more obscure. But yeah, no, you're bang on, man. I mean, it's an iconic scene.
Well, for me, I'm going to be obvious. Of course, I'm going to be. Okay. It's Snake Freddy for me, but it's not that particular moment when he's. And I wish they would elaborate more and make a bigger scene out of it. It's not the point where he's swallowing Kristen. It is at the point where Freddy sees Nancy again, and he looks at her and goes, "You."
Yeah.
It is that point, and then she says, "Oh my God!" And I wish they would just elaborate on that. Like, if he's knocking into the door, going, "Get back in here, you bitches," or something like that.
Right.
Something to make that seem a little bit more. I'd rather see them go run through the house and Freddy doing like a Beetlejuice. Just going through as a snake.
That would be
popping
interesting.
out of walls and everything like that, and trying to grab them.
Probably too ambitious for the budget.
Yeah, you're right. But I wish they would just make that a little bit longer,
Yeah.
But it's just for me, it's that moment. I always liked it when everyone sees they're either their arch enemy or the protagonist meets the antagonist for the first time or multiple times, and everyone's
after a long period of time. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, because it's that moment, it's that connection they're making that we're living vicariously through. We're like, oh, this is them looking at each other. This is so cool. Oh my God, they haven't looked at each other in so long. This is amazing. I think maybe that should have been Nancy's death. Maybe she gets eaten by the snake.
I also think that was the point where Freddy's like, I'm going to be a little bit more harsh to these kids, knowing that you were here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you should have stayed
point.
away.
Good point.
Yep. That's a good scene. It's a good scene. It's a good scene. All these
Kristen's
are good.
legs are all bloody. You know, they're bloody and they got saliva all over them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, I like that when he's curled up and the light comes on is ridiculous. Oh, that's why I liked it. I thought it was. I shouldn't say it's one of the best. I mean, again, I was really stretching to find things that I really like that are not. Nobody's going to say that's. Nobody's going to say that's one of the best moments in the movie. Nobody's going to say that.
It was kind of my revenge for you shitting on my best character.
That's right. Well, I mean, geez, he's just an insensitive prick, this doctor is. I don't know what's going on.
You can't tell me that you gentlemen, when you first saw this for the first time, and that opening, which it's a good opening.
It is a good
building the house.
Yeah.
How many of you? I'm going to say I tried to do this as well. Have tried to make that house, knowing that she's
not.
I've thought about it. It, and I tried to make it, and I just gave up.
Out of what, like lollipop sticks or something?
They're popsicle sticks. I got to
frozen dog shit.
I got to glue maybe half a house, and then it looked like a log cabin from Daniel Boone, and I was just like, "Fuck it," and I just gave the fuck up.
That's great. I know there are people that make them. I know there are people that make not. I don't think as big. They're smaller, but I'm pretty sure there are people online that make popsicle stick Freddy houses. I'm almost positive.
And that opening also made me think that, because I had no idea what Folger's instant coffee crystals was, and I thought she was drinking Diet Coke and hot chocolate powder, and I went to go try canned coffee for the first time by just dipping my spoon in there and eating it. It just going it just tasted like shit.
I bet you she did put probably hot chocolate or something in her. Yeah, I bet you it wasn't
powdered
coffee.
Granular coffee grinds. You just like, oh. Well, Dave, you and I both hate coffee. We just
hate coffee. So maybe, yeah. Oh, I can't stand the taste of coffee.
You're a chocolate milkman through and through.
I'm a chocolate milkman through and through. Yeah, a powdered chocolate, that would have been me.
Yeah, that would have been easier, right?
It would have been powdered chocolate and then just milk. Yeah, well, that's right.
Goes down smooth.
Yeah, that's how I. Don't you need a blender or something? No. It's nice. It's good. It's good. That tasted well.
All right, I'm ready.
Good. Yeah.
Well, this has been fun, gentlemen. You know, we know everybody out there. This is what you think. Probably like 75% of people out there think this is their best. This is their franchise. This is their favorite.
It's a lot of people, isn't it?
A lot of people.
A lot of people
think this is the best one.
For us, this is not our Scary Freddy.
No, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's competently made and a lot of cool effects and sequences and dreams and stuff. But I don't think it's a very. And when I say I don't think it's a very scary movie, that's not me saying it's shit. I just mean that it's got some scary sequences that, yes, if it happened to you in real life, yes, obviously it'd be scary. But there's just a tone shift. There's a tone in the first and second film that I just don't think is present here, and that I think is far scarier in the first two films. So
yeah. I think you're right. I think it starts out meaningful, and I get the sense that there is some of that tone there within the first kind of 15, 20 minutes. But then it kind of just, it does, in Freddy terms, I think, jump the shark and stretches things a little bit. So
where did Freddy's nipples go when he opened up his shirt and it revealed all the souls?
I don't know.
And yet
they were talking to him.
One of the kids ate them.
That's right. He cut his chest to see the worms coming out. While we're looking for Freddy's nipples, we would like to thank everybody for watching this episode. And Dave, you will be back again, won't you?
I will be back for A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, which really goes MTV. So this will be interesting. As the series goes on here, this is going to be interesting.
Freddie and Ray-Bans.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. On a beach.
Again, thanks to everybody for watching, and thanks for all the feedback that we've had on this series. You know, a lot of people asked if Dave was going to come back for more episodes, and Frank and I decided to put it to him, and thankfully he said yes and agreed.
Yeah.
So we'll be bringing you over the next...
It was the check you sent me here. But yeah, that's I got it somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Dave, Darren and I had a vote, and it was 50-50.
No, I appreciate the offer in terms of wanting to come on, and
you're great.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody out there who recommended it or not recommended it, but who suggested, asked about it, wanted to see me on. I have a lot of fun doing this and talking about this, and it's fun to. It's just fun to, and again, this is all fun, folks. We're just, we like these, well, not every movie, but we're just having fun. If you disagree, that's okay. That's all right. That's cool. But, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. And as my dog's about to throw up, stick to the roads.
And the best of luck.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.